Learning outcomes. After studying this module, we shall be able to understand the concept of long-term memory, describe the duration and capacity of long-term memory, outline the subdivisions of long-term memory, which could be declarative, procedural memory, explain the role of organization in long-term memory, describe the retrieval cues of long-term memory. We would be discussing the recognition of information in long-term memory, which would be a major impact out here, which would be give you further understanding about this concept. And not the last but not the least, we will explain all the three structures which we have done, would be sensory memory, short-term memory and your long-term memory, which is the current module right now. Today's concept would be cognitive science, and it is paper 1, which covers long-term memory as its aspect. First would be to understand what long-term memory is, then about its duration, capacity, with its subdivisions would be procedural memory, declarative, and declarative, which would be further divided into episodic and semantic memory. We would also cover out here is the organization of information in long-term memory, some of the retrieval cues which are there in long-term memory, and further the recognition and differences in memory structure would be the end stage out here. Let's understand about what long-term memory would be and what all you would be referring out here. The third stage, it is called the third stage of memory, and it covers the long-term memory, the system into which all the information is placed to be kept more or less permanently. So whatever information you will learn, it will be there for years, for months. We will not say it is for hours or weeks, but yearly it would be there within your system. We use the information stored in long-term memory in several ways in our everyday life. Let's take an example to understand it. We recognize the face of a friend across the room, or we can recall the name of events of our holidays, how we had spent, what all people were there along with us, and the events which were basically involved in it. So this is all which long-term memory would be all about. And this chapter would also consider about new events which you have learned and how you have encoded and stored the information in the long-term memory. Now let's understand what long-term memory is with its definition also. A long-term memory is anything you remember that happened more than a few minutes ago. Long-term memories can be last for few days or for many years. Long-term memories aren't all of equal strength. Some would be having stronger memories and some would be associated with weaker memories. Stronger memories basically enable you to recall an event, procedure or a fact or a demand that happened basically in Delhi is the capital, which would be your stronger memories, which would not require any kind of a cue, whereas weaker memories would require some kind of a cue associated with it, which will help you in understanding, or which will help you make you recognize that okay, this is the memory which I had learned, or these are the events which were there. Now let's understand what is the capacity of a long-term memory. Capacity would be if it's very spacious, you can hold so many informations in it. A lifetime of memories can readily be stored. You don't have to worry about okay, the capacity is very less, the capacity is I cannot hold more information, I need to chuck out other information. The information can be stored to many amounts. Your experiences, what you have learned, what you have remembered, everything can be stored within it. Now what is the duration of it? Duration of long-term memory must be measured in terms of years, not seconds. Once material have been stored in long-term memory, it may be persist for a lifetime. So you don't need to worry about whether it would be for okay, I have to relearn, but it will remain there for a very longer period of time. As certain studies have also been done about permanent memory, how information was stored permanently within your system. So all these information would be there for a very longer duration, and it will not fade away very easily. Subdivisions, the next issue which we would, or the next concept which is there, is the subdivision of long-term memory, how long-term memories are divided into. First is long-term memory can be divided into declarative memory, which would include the facts, data, events. Second is your procedural memory, which will be how to do things, the procedure wise. And the declarative memory, if you further understand, would be divided into episodic and semantic. So let's address them one by one as what these memories would be all about. Procedural memory. It is a type of implicit memory that enables us to carry out commonly learned tasks without consciously thinking about them. So you don't have to make an effort of understanding or learning those things. It will be there within a system. That is, let's take an example of how to knowledge, that is riding a bike, tying a shoe and washing dishes. All these tasks require basically your procedural memory. It will not be associated like you need to work, you need to make an effort of learning those things. Procedural memories are often also referred as implicit memories, and those that you do without thinking. Thinking is not involved. Since childhood you have been like taught how to ride a bicycle. Once you have been taught, you don't have to think about where to put your hands, where are the brakes, where are the pedals. It comes automatically. Second is the declarative memory. Declarative memory is all about all the things that people can know, the facts and information that make up the knowledge system within you. So anything which you have learnt about solar system, knowing about the planets, nouns, person, all these things in place, vocabulary, grammar, all these would consist about the declarative memory within you. And they are being also referred as explicit memories. So what are these explicit memories? These are basically those that you consciously remember, such as an event in your life, a particular fact which is there within you. So when we remember certain things like mathematical calculations also, we always remember the board mass kind of a concept which is there, which helps you in actually doing certain concepts very easily. So these were the two broad categories of long-term memory. Now let's come to the within subdivisions of declarative memory. First is explicit memory, episodic, and second is the semantic. So as the word refers, episodic basically refers to something which is there in an autobiographical manner, an episode which has occurred in a life of yours. So all your personal experiences would be termed as your episodic memory, episodes in your life. So we try and it is our human nature to basically remember certain episodes which hold good for us or which are pleasant experiences, and some of the negative experiences also which have really hit us in our life, and we try and remember those things so that we don't make those mistakes in future. So these would be your episodic. So they have two categories. It could be positive experiences, it could be negative experiences, anything which could be related to. Now they would be your semantic memory. Another type of explicit memory is semantic. It accounts for our textbook knowledge, learning, general knowledge about the world. It's what enables us to say without knowing exactly when, where we learned. It would be, let's take an example of a very simple example of semantic would be, a zebra is a striped animal, or that Paris is that major city in France. So all these things is the knowledge which we have gained, and this knowledge is basically referred as your semantic memory, and this is what we have learned after being born. So all these knowledge which we have gained in your schools, colleges would be your semantic memory. Now the another information which is very important in long-term memory would be your organization of information. How one should organize the information if you want to store the information into your long-term memory. One way in which semantic knowledge may be basically organized would be in an organized fashion. As you organize your cupboard, if you see, there would be skirts, there would be shirts in one category, one corner, one shelf, pants in the other one. So in that same manner, the information would be organized in that manner, that information which is related to your personal events would be pocketed at one. Information which you have gained through schools and colleges would be pocketed at another one. So any information which is there, it should be in an organized fashion. It should not be haphazardly stored in your memory system. Then would be retrieval of long-term memory. How do we retrieve these long-term memories? There are certain cues which are attached to it. If you remember an incident which has happened, that incident and you want to forget that incident. So if supposingly you come across with that same incident in some other manner, that stimulus will give you a signal that okay, this is an event, please go for it, please bring that information back. So this is how we retrieve the information which is there within your system, but you are not understanding, or you don't want to bring it to your conscious level. So this is how you can bring it to your conscious level by actually a signal, a cue which is given to you, and that cue will help you in understanding, okay, this is the information I need to bring out, so I will bring out that information which is there. The concept of retrieval cues help to explain why using elaborative rehearsal to encode information in working memory is the best strategy for creating easily accessible, stable long-term memories. When we elaborate certain information, it will help us to encode it more easily. If elaboration is not there, obviously that information will not be understood very well. Elaboration will give you further understanding of that information, and it will help you in encoding that information in a much better manner. Mental events as retrieval cues, another concept which is there within it is certain mental state, at what kind of a mental state you were when you had remembered that information will help you in remembering it in much better manner. Maybe you were very angry, frustrated, or you were fearful. So all these things will help you in remembering those events more easily. Another is the mood congruence. Again, mood is pleasant, frustration, all these kind of states, feelings, emotions will help you in retrieving those information events in your life which you had forgotten or you don't want to remember them into the current state. The last, not the last concept, but yes, another important is recognition in long-term memory. What is recognition? Recognition is the association of events or physical object with one previously experienced or encountered, and involves a process of comparison of information with memory. Example, recognizing a known face, true or false, multiple answer questions, etc. Basically, recognition is largely unconscious processes, and the brain even has detected face recognition area. You try and recognize certain things with their physical properties. It could be by the face of a person, he was fat or she was slim and she had long face or a bulgy kind of a chin. So all these things, physical properties, will help you in remembering certain events out here. Differences in memory structures. Till now you have understood what different types of memory would be. We have covered in this module the long-term memory, but in the previous modules there was short-term memory, sensory memory. So let's try in this level would be understanding the difference between all the three within their capacities. If you see, there is a sensory memory would be having a large capacity, whereas short-term memory would consist of a very small capacity. And again, if you switch over to long-term memory, it would be, as we have discussed, the large capacity, huge amount of capacity is there, it's unlimited. Then formation of representation would be similar to stimulus. As the stimulus is there, you will try and represent that in the same manner. And in this in the short term memory, it would be semantic and visual both, like visually you are seeing an object, whereas in long term memory, it's similar to what short term memory is all about. Then forgetting, how we forget information, not to leave this thing. Causes of forgetting would be decay and interference, that we had discussed in the sensory memory. Short-term memory would include the interference with decay, and the long-term memory would be through retrieval failure, when you are not able to put information into certain pockets, so you try and forget those information. This was about memory structures and their processes. And so in the end, let's understand what all we have done, what all we have understood in this module would be through summarization. It would give you an insight of what all we had done till now, and it will help you in remembering those concepts again, revising those concepts again, what we have understood till through this module. First would be long-term memory. Items would be encoded into long-term memory which are held most permanently, almost permanently. Information, as we had discussed, information is permanent out here. It will not be there for hours or weeks, it will be there for years and years and years. So virtually we can say it holds unlimited capacity. Now the capacity issue which we had addressed would be, again, we have said it is unlimited. How unlimited it is? Because organization plays a role out here. If you have to, but still information can be organized but cannot be retrieved. You cannot retrieve that information until unless you have certain cues attached to it. So information should be in that manner which helps you in understanding. Elaboration plays a role out here. Next would be, what we have understood is declarative long-term memories involved factual information or knowledge and include episodic memories, which would be all your life experiences, your personal events. And semantic memories are the facts about the world and language, the grammatical mistakes which we make, the nouns, pronouns, the information, knowledge which is attached to it would be all your factual information and which will be part of your semantic memories. So, the basic two understandings is there, semantic and episodic. Episodic is the events which you have gone through in your life. It would be all your personal experiences, and semantic would be any knowledge which we have gained even through this lecture or through this module. Whatever you are understanding, it is categorized into your semantic memory. And when you were coming for this class or for understanding of this module, the events which we have gone through would be your episodic one. So, I hope it's very clear with this information what is episodic and what is semantic. Now would be your procedural memories. So, procedural memories would be how to do things and memories established through conditioning. Again, something which you have done in your childhood, the conditioning which was given to you, how to ride a bicycle, or this is how you have to use a piano. So, information which you have done unknowingly, consciously, efforts were not made. Earlier, yes, it was, but afterwards it just happened. Whenever you used to sit on your bicycle or you used to ride your bicycle, it automatically came to you. Nowadays, the bicycle concept is not there. What is there is driving. So, once you have been taught, it will come to you automatically that this is the clutch, this is the brake, this is the accelerator, and accordingly you will go for it. So, something can't consciously recollect how it happened, it just the things had come within you. You talk about the changes that went in your body. It is basically reflection of skills and actions. How skillfully you have actually mastered that thing with your own actions which were involved in it. The other thing which we have understood out here was explicit memories. It involves conscious and intentional memory retrieval, whereas implicit, if you see implicit, it involves a behavior with conscious awareness. So, again we should know the difference between two concepts out here, explicit, implicit. Explicit was something which you were not consciously aware of, whereas implicit was basically about conscious awareness of certain events. Now, organization of information in long-term memory is through associative network models. You make an association. Which are the associative knots, with each knot representing a concept or a unit of information. When we say nodules or nodes out here would be, if you take flying creatures or flying animals, they would be divided into categories of birds. Birds would be further divided into vultures or eating worms, so who have wings. So, all these things would be subdivided into some kind of a category. So, when you subdivide them, that would be your knots. They would be comprising that specific area. Now, retrieval cues activate information stored in the long-term memory. Memory retrieval is more likely to occur when we have multiple cues, emotional and mental events. So, how you can retrieve information through retrieval cues? Retrieval cues will consist about your mental state, your mood, your emotional states. So, all these things will help you in remembering certain events in your life. Mental state, mental events discussed earlier would be what you were doing at that moment. And next would be emotional, how your mood was, whether you were sad, whether you were happy. Generally, it is said that happy events, when you are in a happy mood, you tend to remember events in a much better manner as compared to when you are in a sad mood. You tend to avoid those emotional states. You don't want to come in contact with those emotional states as you had experienced at that moment. Last would be differences exist in the memory systems in terms of the capacity, processing information and in the forgetting aspects. It would be capacity of all the three memory structures. When we had discussed about memory, we had divided them into three structures. It would be sensory, short term and long term. So, in the earlier modules you have understood about sensory memory, about short-term memory, and in this module we were addressing about long-term memory. So it's a summarization of all the three memory structures. So when we combine them, when we see a combination of all the three, we could see that the unlimited capacity is there in the long-term memory. The sensory memory will hold all the information which is related to your visual aspects, your auditory aspects, whereas in short-term memory would hold all the conscious events which we have gone through right now. Consciously you have made an effort of understanding those things. So in this short-term memory it would be 7 plus and minus 2 units, and in sensory memory it could be small amount of information which is there, which you would be paying for, you have paid attention towards.